Everyone make sure you get comfortable. And we're going to ask if everyone can please put their microphones on mute.
Microphone.
Rabbi Nick, just give me the thumbs up when we're live. Okay. A really good evening. I hope that the whole community has had a positive week. It's wonderful to see everyone, if not in person the way exactly we'd want to, but certainly at least over a screen. We'll definitely do under the circumstances. Before we commence with my introduction and then perhaps any other continued thoughts, which hopefully will encourage all of you to be able to share what you would like to as well, I just want to once again explain the rules of if everyone could explain once again the rules of how best to interject and to be able to contribute. Zoom allows for, in the participants, for you to click on it and then it will say raise hand. We'll be able not only to see which hands are raised, but also hopefully to be able to see the order of which they're raised, so we can be able to give everyone a chance to speak. There's also a chat function that you're able to also share, and a question that you might have if you don't feel that the raising hand method's working as well. This is the third installment of the Fireside chats. Until now, it's really been Jacqueline and myself having a chance of thinking about the past, talking about the present, but now as we're looking at the future, it's quite important that this is a collective and collaborative conversation. So let's begin to talk about the future. The future is a place which is very much still unknown. The one thing that we all would want in life is certainty. Even when we were under lockdown, there was at least certainty. We knew what we had to do, and we know what we could do, and what would be the best for us to not only look after our own well-being, but please God to look after the well-being of the people that we love and our community and further afield as well. The lockdown has ended, and from the 4th of July, the government has now issued permission for houses of worship to reopen. Following that announcement, the United Synagogue went into deliberation and consultation of what would be the best way for our communities to open up. And in doing so, they made the very, very strong point that each community would have to be case specific. And each community would have to balance and weigh up what is the best and most appropriate thing for them to do. And that's the reason why the elected officials of the shul, our chairman, vice chairman, wardens, FR, and council, have been doing our best, along with the rabbinic team, to map out what an appropriate reopening would be for our community. Much time and much thought has gone into what that reopening could look like. And I want to take this opportunity not only to thank our amazing lay leadership and rabbinic colleagues, but also our administration and office staff and caretakers that have really worked above and beyond to help us be ready for an opening. Those of you who have seen the video which I shared with the community You'll see the precautions that we have taken, the tremendous signage which you will find around the shul, the one-way system which we have created, the 2-meter distancing which we will require, the registrations for all high-volume occasions which will be absolutely insistent upon, and all other measures such as wearing masks, the avoidance of singing, and making our services as short and as sweet as possible. Part of this evening is going to be about sharing our excitement that we can once again pray together as a community. And that is something that has been denied to us by this awful virus for so long. So many people who, sorry, Alan, there's no password for this, for entering, and you're probably in if you're here. If anyone else needs it, they just need to click. So many people have sadly had to lose out on saying Kaddish for their loved ones. So many people who would never want to be without praying 3 times a day with a minyan have had to go without it. And so many people who simply have missed the spirituality of praying and being inside the shul. And therefore, we're very excited that we are now able to go back home. Will it be the same home that we were used to before all this happened? Certainly not. The services will be shorter. That alone, I know, is going to upset most of our membership. The sermons will not have the same pizzazz, as they'll be limited by time and by projection. And for all of you who really cannot make it through a Friday night without watching me bang away and dance away on the bima, well, friends, the bima will not be there. Instead, we'll have our portable bima in the front, which will have around it protective screens to further create a social distancing, health and safety atmosphere. And therefore, coming back will have to be evaluated as a new beginning, but not the ultimate ideal, and certainly not the way that we have known and loved. And I have to say, in this regard, Jacqueline and I have great sadness, because we loved the Bushy experience, the Ruach, the atmosphere, the connection. And it won't be exactly the same. Please God, we'll get there. But these will be the safe and correct, healthy baby steps along the way. And for that reason also, each of our members will have to make the right decision for themselves about whether coming back at this time is right for them. And although we will be thoroughly excited, although in many ways we need people to come back for this new beginning, it has to be what is appropriate on a case-by-case basis. If for whatever reason you feel that continuing to isolate or continuing not to come back to shul is right for you, we support that, and you're making the right decision. And that's the reason why our virtual offering is going to continue and hopefully integrate with our reopening, so that wherever you may be, you'll be able to listen in to the services, to respond to the Kaddishes, and also hopefully to join in with our learning, our studying, our social events, and our community experiences as well. This is my introduction.
So So for me, I think I've got very mixed feelings, as I'm sure many of you do, about going back to shul that's not going to feel like the shul that we know. As Elchonon has said, there's been so much incredible effort put in by so many people to make sure that, you know, Bushi really is leading the game in terms of doing as much as we possibly can to make sure that we are ready for when we can go back to shul, and it's been done with, you know, really taking into consideration all the safety and making it as comfortable as possible for people. But at the end of the day, the new normal is not going to be, or this current normal is not going to be the way that we're used to. So much of going to shul, and, you know, let's be honest, the fact that when you go to shul, you sit next to someone and you can find out how their week's been and catch up, and you can spend time together at Kiddush. That's so much about shul that we all love. Those things aren't going to be there. But I think that lockdown has also given us an opportunity in every area of our life to press the pause button and to think about it. And I think the same is true about shul. As we're all now approaching, please God, the reopening, I think we need to all reflect on what shul actually means to us, and how we can try in the new normal to still have those meaningful experiences, whether we are one of those people who is able to go to shul, or whether we're continuing with what we've been doing at home, is how we can still make sure that we're connected to our Judaism, to our spirituality, and to our community. And that's really what we want to be able to open up the conversation to all of you about tonight as well. So yes, it's about physically, how is shul going to work? How can we make it work for everyone in the safest way possible? But also, how can we make sure that some of the things that are going to be missing in terms of when shul does reopen in this current way that it's going to reopen, how can we make sure that those things we can, as much as possible, still try to build into our community, whether it's virtually or whether it's with other means? Because at the end of the day, as wonderful as our beautiful building is on Sparrow's Hearn, that's not what makes Bushi Shul great. What makes Bushi Shul great is all of you and all of us together as a community. So I think that part of what we need to think about in terms of our future and the immediate future is how to tap into the strengths of our community, whether it's through going to services in shul and whether it's through other means as well.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. Before I encourage all of you to start opening up, I want to just say one word about Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, because if I don't do that, I'm sure most of the questions are going to be about that anyway. So I do want to mention, and then maybe if there are any honor officers who also want to share anything to have opportunity to do so before we open it up. Regarding Yom Narayim, obviously that is a massive concern for the shul. Thousands and thousands of people, generations of family members all coming together. How is that going to work with social distancing? How's that going to work with people who need to socially isolate? How's that going to happen? So there are a few pieces of the puzzle. The first one is the consultation with Emmanuel College along with our shul to make sure that we have space for anyone who is able to come to be able to attend. We are very much still looking to have our scholars and residents who will be able to keep our multi-approach Yom Tov experience a really high level and good one. Part of that as well will be coordinating across Bushi for second day of Yom Tov, or for the Sunday, to have shofar blowing sessions for all those who need to isolate and are not able to come to shul. And that's going to be a priority as well. But there will very much be a registration necessary. And therefore, start thinking now already. You do not need to be a member to register. But if people are not on the registry, we won't be able to make sure they're able to come and to be looked after. Just like we need to do for Shabbat, we're certainly going to need to do it for Yom Tov. So the responsible thing is to also help to do your part, and please God, together we'll also be able to tackle Yom Tov, and it will be a sweet one. Might be slightly differently sweet, but will be a sweet one. we're going to look now to see if there's any, I believe all of our executive are able to unmute themselves if they would like to. Does anyone from the executive want to make any additional comments at this point in time from what we've shared already?
So good evening, everybody. It's really a pleasure to see so many people online this evening. I just really want to reiterate some of what the Rabbi and Rebbetzin have already said, in the fact that we don't want to pressure anybody into coming back to shul if they feel unsafe or are scared of what may or may not happen in the near future. It's been quite a terrifying time for a lot of our members, and certainly those that have been isolating, it's not been easy. And we as a shul want to make sure that you all know, and obviously you can pass the information around, that we are still here for any member of our shul or community that needs help or support in any way. A lot of work behind the scenes has gone into preparing the shul for the safest that we can make it for as many of you to come back as we can fit in with the 2-meter ruling. I don't know if many of you know that we have a gun or a nursery at shul. There was some discussions whether that should reopen or not reopen. We finally reopened, and within the space of a week to 10 days, nearly every single child wanted to come back to our nursery. Unfortunately, we are unable to have every child back because some of the teachers have to isolate. So it shows you that once momentum starts, people do feel more confident, and we will require everybody to use the booking system to make sure that those that want to come because they've got a yortzeit or a kaddish or a bar or bat mitzvah can be looked after and made to feel really comfortable within the shul environment. I think that's all I got to say at the moment.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else from the executive wants to share anything before we open up to the community? Give another moment, pause.
Sorry, hello, could I say something?
Hi, Amanda, yes.
Hi. I don't know if some of the women from the community will have seen that I have put out a message. Not everyone will have received it, but I just really wanted to encourage the women of the community to step up and register as well. We've only had so far, I think 10% of the applications to come on the first Shabbat have been from women. I really hope that the women of the community will feel that they are as welcome and wanted in shul as the gentlemen for whatever reasons. And I really just wanted to say, please do come and join us in shul. We look forward to having you all there. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you,
Don't
Amanda.
feel pressurized, but do you feel that you want to come? We'd like to have you there.
Thank you, Amanda. Stuart, do you want to say something?
Yes, I would just like to point out that we have written out to the whole community, but we've only written out to the community of those people who can receive emails. That is a significant majority of our members, but it is not everybody. If you know of anybody or live near anybody who you think might like to come along to shul on Shabbos, they still need to fill in a form, so you can do that on their behalf. But I would hate to think that there are people out there who have not received an email, don't know about it, and would like to come along to shul. So please do make the effort to spread the word if you can. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Alan Graham wants to say something. Just before he does, just make it very clear that what we're talking about is not the 4th of July, but rather the 11th of July will be the first Shabbat. Services will resume on Sunday morning, the 5th of July at 8:30 in the morning, and they'll be continuing with the regular program of weekday services, ideally, weather permitting, outside in the sukkah area in the back of the shul. But you have to register for Friday night, Shabbat day, Shabbat Mincha, ongoing, and you have to register each week for that week. You can't register in bulk in advance. Alan, all yours.
Thank you, Rabbi. I didn't have an observation from the council side, as it were, because I haven't really been involved in these arrangements. I had a question as a congregant, but perhaps you want to take questions a little later.
No, questions are good now.
Okay. Stuart mentioned that not everybody is contactable by email, and by the same token, given the sort of proportion of seniors within the community, I'm guessing that not everybody has access to the internet to make an online application. So I'm inferring from what Stuart said that you can make a paper application as well, or others can apply on one's behalf. If you roll forward and that's all done, I have two questions. Firstly, how many people have applied in either percentage terms or absolute terms for the first available Shabbat? And secondly, if a senior member of the community that does not have access to the online application or is not familiar with these arrangements turns up outside the gates on Shabbat morning on the 11th of July and hasn't registered, is that person going to be turned away?
Can I answer that?
Please.
I've just checked the registration form, and the total tally is 33 people have applied to have registered so far. As Amanda said, 3% of those are ladies, so we've got 3 ladies and 30 men. All I would say is that if you know of anybody who wants to come to shul, who for whatever reason can't either access the online form or is having difficulty using the online form, to contact the shul office if they haven't got anybody else who can complete the form for them. It's going to make the preparation for the services much easier if all the information is collated through that online Google form, because what it's doing is it's collating all the information of all the people that want to come over the course of a Shabbat. It's telling us which services they want to join us for, and it will just become too unwieldy for the honorary officers to receive messages from different people, however well-intentioned they are, telling us that different people want to come to different services. So all I can reiterate is that call the office, leave a message, ask somebody to send an email on your behalf if there's a problem. But Michelle, filter that information into the online booking form, and those details will appear on that list.
Okay,
I was just going to mention about why we've got the online booking form. We need it because we're required to comply with the track and trace requirements that the government has. And therefore, if somebody is not on that list for a particular Shabbat, we can't let them in. It's that simple, because we've got no way of amending that list on the day. And God forbid we forget that somebody was in shul on Shabbat, and there was a need to trace somebody. We can't do that. So for their own protection, that's why we're having the list. During the week, we can create our own there and then. So there's that's the reason.
The 33 that you mentioned, Richard, that's out of a maximum capacity of what?
There were 53 people in the shul and 24 people in the Bradley Cret. And that includes both upstairs and downstairs. And as the guidance said when we sent it out, some weeks the upstairs might be used for ladies, depending on how many ladies there are. It might be used for men if we need more room for men. And if we need another service, then we've got the capacity to be able to run that. But we need to look in.
I was just trying to get an idea. So you're confirming that an unregistered person turn up at the door, they'll be turned away.
Yes, Alan. I think that it's quite. We're going to have an A1 sign on the front of the shul gate, which says pre-registration required, and it will say explicitly anyone who has not will be turned away. So there won't be any room for hopefully people shouldn't be put on the spot. It's for everyone's health and safety purposes. I do need to reiterate that although we are talking about the registration, in actual fact, according to the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, we made it very clear that really people were only supposed to start signing up on Motzei Shabbat Sunday for the coming week. So anyone who signed up specifically this week early used a bit of a loophole to do so because we gave out the information, therefore the form was sent. Going forward, the form is going to be a link in the newsletter. It will be on the Facebook group, and also will be an email on Sunday morning with the link that anyone who wants to sign up will be able to do so. For those who are struggling with their emails, as the Koskis have said that they're struggling to get them, please contact the shul, and I know it's exacerbating or exasperating is probably the word I was looking for, to be able to do to be able to do that. Then just call the shul office or call and they will book you in manually. But the important thing is, even though you've registered, you get a confirmation, which will only come on Thursday, because we need to collate in terms of a pecking order and which service you might be in, whether it's the Bradley Credit or the main shul service. Unfortunately, we really can't prioritize which one you're going to be in under the circumstances. I believe the Risings have a question.
Yeah, a couple of questions actually. Given that we're taking our own Sidurim and Chumashim to shul, is it possible that there are two chairs together, so that when you've got a chair next to you where you can put your Chumash when you're not using it, or your Sidur when you're not using it? And have you thought about potentially, if there's two people from the same household, that they could sit directly next to each other and therefore allow more people in shul?
Okay, so in terms of the two chair to help we are definitely looking for a solution for where you can leave your chumash or your talis bag, whatever it might be, next to you. We have a creative option which hopefully will come through. If not, a second chair of some kind will be an alternative as well. We are exploring those options. In terms of bubbles and being able to sit as a family together, that's something that we are definitely going to be looking towards, but probably in the beginning we will not be doing so because we just need to manage the process, and once we understand it better, we'll have a little more flexibility. Right now, you have tape marking where the seat is. There is spray paint outside marking where you need to stand in the back. We're trying to do our best, if we can, in the onset, that things start right, and we will have ushers which will hopefully be helping people navigate the whole system as well. We may move to that, and there's exceptional circumstances, please do bring them up. For example, God forbid someone's sitting Shiva and they want someone to sit next to them. You know, we are sympathetic to these types of things, or obviously a bar mitzvah or something along those lines. So let's the general rule is to sit 2 meters apart, but we have we appreciate there are exceptions.
You've decided to stick with the 2 meters rather than reduce down, as the government have said we can do from this weekend.
We haven't decided that. The United Synagogue decided that for us. So we made
Okay.
Can I just make the point that even though you might have two people from the same household sitting next to one another, it doesn't mean to say that we get more people into shul.
No.
It's the shul space is the shul space, and if they take up the same amount of space, it doesn't mean to say that we can squeeze an extra person in, not if we're having to seat people 2 meters apart. We just don't have the space to accommodate.
If they're sitting next to each other, then there's a space not taken up at 2
We've
meters
looked
apart.
at it. It doesn't increase the capacity.
Well, yeah. So right now we're sticking to 2 meters very, very stringently, and but we will look towards adapting those things. I know there's another hand up. I just want to very quickly go through some of the questions. We will be. I don't know why the email wasn't received by everyone. If you look up reopening, you should be able to find it, along with my pretty face, which is in the video. that's there as well. If not, it was on Facebook as well. The whole reopening. It is marked as a announcement, so it's on top of the Facebook. On it, you'll be able to find it as well. Any other quick questions that people had before we go to the next question that was hand that was raised? One second. We have as well regarding toilets. It's a one in, one out system, which means basically like an airplane, there will be a vacant and occupied sign on the front of not the toilet, but the cloakroom door. So only one person the cloakroom will be off limits. You can't leave anything there. If you want to utilize it, go to the toilet, you go from green to red, and then from red to green, obviously sanitizing as you do so. Obviously, it's better to not use the toilet in Shul. Of course, it is there, anyone who needs it. And just one more point regarding the ushering. The ushering is going to be a vital piece of the puzzle. Anyone who feels comfortable to volunteer as an usher, we really can use your help. Remember, the service is only going to be 90 minutes long. It's not going to be as long as normal, and therefore the service will run on Shabbat anyway. Will run from Shochen Ad, and people will have to come on time. We start at 9:30 in the morning for the main service, and it will have from Shochen Ad. We might have one officiant, we might have 2 or 3, depending on the week. And from there, we'll move to the laning. The person who's doing the laning will take out the Torah. Haggadah and Galila should ideally be done by members of a family, or we have some other, the wardens have other means of being able to manage that, such as the person who's laning. There'll be a certain flexibility depending on who's the officiant on each week, how it will function. And then we'll make directions on how people should exit in a careful way, which obeys social distancing as much as possible as well. Ushers will not be booking in. Ushers will be like security, a fixture to make the service run. They will not be taking up seats. So yeah, okay. Let me. But that's going to go through Louise Marks, the meet and greet person as well. We have 2 questions. One from first from the Davis family. So Davises, please.
My dad's not feeling well, so if I can ask a couple of questions that he wanted to know about. On the video, you didn't mention how the people who go upstairs, how they're going to exit from the building. So that's that question. What's happening on Shabbos afternoon? Will there be a shir, or what will be happening then? I think someone else has already put on the questions on the chat about asking about whether there'll be access to lockers. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Haley. So in terms of the lockers will not be functioning. Those who bring coats and things like that will keep them behind their seat or underneath their seat, wherever they need to do. In terms of the upstairs, for those who are able to and the weather's appropriate, they will be exiting through the back stairwell, the fire stairwell, and you'll have the one-way system. You'll enter the shul through the regular double doors. Everyone will, and then everyone will be exiting through the side on the end, so that you will have a one-way system. If for whatever reason a person's not able to use that stairwell, then they'll have to use the stairs going back down the way they came in. But once again, a one-way system out, which we'll utilize. Okay, I think Robert, you have a question. Haley, did I cover everything? Mincha, thank you, sorry. Mincha. So at the moment, Mincha will function as normal. We're going to daven as close to sunset as possible. We'll have a shir, and then we'll have Marav as early as possible to conclude when Shabbat goes out.
At the moment, the timing for that is like 9.
Yeah, it's
close
late.
to 9. It's late on a Shabbat.
It's late, and there will be a very, very, very limited amount of parking in the car park over Shabbat. if it's absolutely necessary to do so as well. Okay. Yeah, just in terms of masks, the usage of masks will be mandatory during services. Certainly, when we're inside, when we're outside, it certainly will be the ideal as well to use them for everyone's safety. Gloves, when you will be coming in contact with the Sefer Torah or getting a call up and those types of things, then you would need to wear gloves, but you would not need to wear gloves when you're just coming to daven. That won't be necessary. Robert, do you have a question?
Yes, there's a question here. There's been a couple of mentions of bar mitzvahs, which was a pleasant surprise. Rabbi, as you know, as I'm someone who's got a son whose bar mitzvah is due in October, what are you thinking of in terms of bar mitzvahs?
Because that's kind of one of the million-dollar questions, and a really, really important one. Simchas is something that we've been missing, having as much as families have been concerned. We've really felt the absence of them as well. Please God, everything being well, we'll be able to offer a simcha experience. We won't be able to have as many attendees as before. We'll have a certain block amount that will be, the family can be entitled, but families are looking to have variations on the themes. They're thinking about having two-tiered bar mitzvahs. So the Shabbat morning, where there only will be immediate family members, and then maybe a Zoom separate occasion, which could be streamed from the shul. For the wider family on the Thursday night before or the Sunday after, or something along those lines as well. We could work. We're working together with each of the families to find what's right for them. So hopefully, Gideon, you and myself can crack it. What will be best for his simcha, which please God will be celebrating. Okay.
Right, thank you.
Pleasure. We have in our chat function. Okay, so Stella's asking. Yeah, so Stella wants to know about the virtual, the connecting virtually. The question specifically is about saying Kaddish. Let's say we have a minyan in shul that will be reciting Kaddish. What can you do? So that's twofold. First of all, every service will be
on behalf of someone.
Sorry, there will be a Kaddish recited at every single service. That will be fundamental to make sure that there is a Kaddish being recited, so that so that the question is valid about saying Kaddish along, because there will be one recited to make sure anyone who has a yurtzeit, whether they come or don't come, Kaddish will be recited in memory of whoever it is in the community that we're commemorating. Reciting along, the recommendation from the Dayanim is that you respond to the Kaddishes which are being recited, and ideally to have someone nominated to be able to come to shul to say along. If someone wants to say it in an undertone as well, there's no objection to that also. The lessers want to know, okay, not only will you be able to collect your talmud and the siddur during the week, on the first Shabbat that you come, you will be able to go into the cloakroom and take out your talmud and then just not return it. It's not off limits. We're just not using the lockers any longer we're not using the lockers any longer for regular usage. But if you need to remove anything from there, that's perfectly understandable, and you can do so. Ideally, come a little bit earlier to make sure that that you have time. So we don't want queues, which is a social distancing issue. Richard?
I was just going to add that if somebody does go into the locker area on that Shabbat, they need to be the only person in that area at that time. So it's one person in and then out, and then the next person. And again, you can't have queuing in the hallway for it because of people coming in. So the guidance we've received from the United Synagogue is that we can't use the cloakrooms as cloakrooms, but if you need to get something out of your locker as a one-off on that Shabbat, then you can do that.
Thank you, Richard, for that. Can I just say, we're getting lots of really important questions, and they should and keep coming. But we also want thoughts as well. We want to hear how people are feeling. We've shared lots of information here. You've been hearing lots of information from the world and from the shul for these last couple of months. We want to know how you feel.
And one of the things I'm particularly interested in hearing from is if you don't feel comfortable with coming back to shul right now, you know, how can we connect with you, and how can you connect with shul, even if it is virtually? What are your feelings about that as well?
Yeah, so these things are so important, because we can only work with what you share with us. So we're here to listen as much as we're here to offer information. Does anyone want to share any reflections or anything, their own personal feelings? Sas, you're never shy. Come on.
I think the reality is that no matter what we say, there is nothing that you can help us with. The truth is that the majority of the community love the shul. The community love the community. We love the children. We love the teenagers. We love the older people. And if you can't connect, there is a great loss, a loss that cannot be explained if you're not a community member. And I think that is the hardest thing of all. That we love the shul, we love our rabbis, we love our rebbitzins, we love being together. And if you can't be together, it hurts. It does hurt. And all the restrictions that are in place are for the benefit and for the health of everyone. We all know that. But a Bet Knesset is exactly what it's meant to be, a Bet Knesset. It's a meeting place. It is a place where you greet and you talk about what's happened in the week. You do pray, you do feel a connection. And until we are able to do that in a normal way, it will feel like a massive loss. Even worse, if there are people that are really desperate to want to come to shul, and because so many people have signed up, they can't come, that's an even bigger loss. So I would suggest that if that happens, that there should be some kind of arrangement to have another minyan that will allow them to pray with 10 other people, because the last thing we want in this situation is to turn people away, because people are already feeling bereaved. They're feeling a loss that has never, ever happened, ever. You know, even in the darkest moments that people have had, they've still had the facility to be able to pray.
So Sas, I think definitely in terms of it, as long as people tell us about it beforehand, we will do everything in our power to make sure that people can come to shul in a safe way. But that's why so much time has gone into the registration process, just because if we know that there's lots of people, as Richard said, then we will look at further minyanim. Like, we really will bend over backwards to try to accommodate everyone, because we agree with you. If someone wants to come to shul and they feel safe to do so,
they should come.
We have to make sure that they can be in that space.
Yeah, that to me, I think is the most important thing, to let people know that we want them back. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to feel safe. And if the numbers are full in one room or one hall, that there will be a facility for them to participate and feel that they're part of the community again. This is a horrible time for all the community leaders in all the different faiths and ministers in government, you know, to try and find a solution that doesn't accommodate the majority of the people. Is not a good place to be in. So, you know, I take my hat off to all of you. I'm grateful. Rocki and I are both grateful for what you're doing. And please God, whenever that time is that we can be together and pray together, is what I believe the majority of the community are praying for.
Thank you so much, Sas. Would someone else like to share with us some of their thoughts and reflections? Of course, if there are technical questions, we can continue answering those, but as much as we can to think about what people's thoughts and feelings are thinking about moving towards the future, because you know the FAQs did have, like people are saying, a lot of the details of how things are going to work, and some of them might be evolving as we head back to shul. But we're looking to hear from all of you. You know, there's so many of you on here tonight. Please share with us what are your thoughts in terms of the future. What are you thinking?
Does anyone want to know what's going to be for Kiddush on the first week you get back?
No, I think you're going to have many people saying, can't it be 90 minutes every week?
Anyone else? Richard, yes.
Can I just make the point that, you know, on behalf of the wardens, you know, we want to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. We may not get everything right. We're having to learn how to do what we do in a very strange and new environment. And, you know, we are under the cosh when it comes to the time limit. Everything needs to be done within that 90-minute period. And so it will mean that, you know, some weeks we will not have any flexibility in how we can call people up. It may be that in other weeks that we do. And it's not because we want to, you know, treat people differently. We just have to respond to the situation as it presents on that particular week. And all we ask is that you help us to help you, because what the most important thing is that we're capable of having a million, and if we need it, more than 1 million on a Shabbat morning, so that as many of you can come to shul as is possible. If you know, if there's anything that you think of, or you think we should know or be aware of, then obviously do get in touch with us through our warden's email address through the shul.
Okay, we have three questions they're asking. First one is regarding children coming back to shul, and specifically for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. As Sas so eloquently pointed out, children is the lifeblood of the community. We love our children, and not seeing them in shul is heartbreaking at the moment. With this staggered beginning or punctuated beginning, children will not be coming. There are exceptions to the under 12 or under 12. There are exceptions to the rules. If a family are having a simcha, a child will be able to come. They don't need to be absent from their son.
Over 12 is considered, you know, would have to register like everyone else, and that doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, but we are looking as quickly as possible to move to having children come back, whether it's only on Friday nights originally, possibly, or maybe to be separated, the young families or children's services or youth services from the rest of the community. But please God, as long as things continue to be okay, hopefully Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we will be able to have children back. We don't know yet. Right now, we just want to make sure we can blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. That itself is a big subject in the government of how we're going to do that safely indoors. So that's a big issue. Just the 90-minute rule that we talked about is not really a rule. We're just trying to make the services on average finish in 90 minutes. We think that's the right amount of time for it to take to do service properly, whilst at the same time to do it at a good pace.
And then it also leaves the possibility of running more than one service on a Shabbat if we need.
Yeah, just in terms of the structure, we're looking to Friday night to continue to have the memorial prayers and the refuah shalemas and the sermon on Friday night before Shabbat comes in, so we can continue streaming that to the whole community. And Shabbat day, we will not be having those things. Maybe a short Dvar Torah, maybe not, but it will be more Israel style than Bushy style for the beginning. So Friday night is going to turn into the main time than Shabbat day, and of course it will be before Shabbat, so people would be able to link in as well. Just before we go to Kathy, okay, yes, as I said, Martin, it's not a 90-minute or bust. It's just we're trying to do that to maximize other possibilities, and also because the United Synagogue said, try to make the services as an appropriate amount of time for the community. Kathy, do you have a question?
I've got an observation and a question as well. The question is, if you're going to use the Bradley Kretz, how is that going to be cleaned? Because I imagine it's being used by the gun during the week. And that will need a lot of sanitizing and cleaning if you're going to have people coming in for services there. That's my question. I don't know.
Yeah, and the Vic comes in after the Gan finishes and every day disinfects, not just before Shabbat. He disinfects for the next day for the Gan, and that's his job. The only difference will be that when he disinfects, he'll then put some chairs up for the next run. In between each service, we will be disinfecting. Now, the truth is, our membership might need to be involved a little bit in disinfecting when it comes to the week. So, for example, if you come to Shul for Mincha Maariv and you sit down in a chair, there will be some disinfectant wipes, and you might be asked to disinfect your chair afterwards, so that the next day for Shachrit it'll be ready to be used. You won't be disinfecting the floors or anything, but just your own personal area that you touched, in order to help out with moving things along.
Thank you. Can I just reiterate? Well, actually, what has already been said. It's all being part of the community, and having spoken to quite a few people who are at the more senior level, maybe others who are not, but people we've particularly spoken to, and I personally, and I think Alan as well, the whole idea of being in an enclosed space with a mask on for an hour and a half actually horrifies me. And I think a lot of people are quite frightened of it. I don't know that there is an answer to it. I think it's just a case of we're eventually going to have to bite the bullet, but we're certainly not ready to do it yet. And a lot of people we've spoken to feel the same. And I think that is the difficulty.
Kathy, thank you for sharing that. I think Colin also in one of the chat asked what other people are still shielding, or people who aren't ready to come back to Shul going to do. Kathy, it's the right decision for you and Alan to be very, very cautious and to continue to let us know what we can offer and to be part of our community more virtually, as you guys are doing. And that's the reason why, although we are reopening, we are continuing with our virtual platform, because the community has to be multifaceted. And that's not just for you guys, but for those who are tuning in from Israel, for those who are tuning in from other places where, for whatever reason, they're not coming to Shul. We don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward as much as we can. Alan Graham has a question, has a comment or something.
No, so it's a quick question, if I may. If the capacity is sort of give or take around 70 people, as suggested earlier by Richard, and I realise that that's flexible and there can be some extra spaces opened up and so on. I'm just saying approximately. If, having observed all of these precautions and everyone's been compliant with all of the suggestions and conditions of masking and social spacing and so on and so forth, if it is subsequently discovered that someone has been at a service while they were, and was subsequently discovered to have the condition, 2 or 3 days later, or they're tested or they feel unwell, will you then be tracing all of those 70 people in Shul and asking them to shield or to isolate themselves for the next 14 days?
Okay, thank you, Alan, for that. Well, first of all, we will be taking advice straight away from the United Synagogue and the local Hertfordshire authorities as well. But in principle, if there was any contact, then of course, if there was 3 services, one took place at 7:30 in the morning, let's say, as argument, one in one venue, and the other one took place at 9:30, and there was absolutely no cross contamination, then the advice probably would be that's not necessary. But it might be it's necessary. Whatever the rules are, we will do. But that's the reason why the registration is so important, that we can know who is there and we're able to act appropriately. We have no fear and no anxiety about shutting down. Our anxiety is about starting up. If shutting down is necessary for the health of the community, we did it once, we'll do it again. Whatever is the right thing to do, and if that means that we have to shut over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we'll do so.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We've had Kathy and Sas sharing reflections. Other people have as well. Sandra's commented on the group chat, but this is a forum. You guys are here. We love you guys. Come on. Anyone else wants to offer anything, please. Now's the opportunity. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Ruth. I see you.
Okay. The registration system sounds a great idea, but what happens if the same people continually register, say Shabbat, and then somebody realizes Tuesday morning they haven't registered? Are they going to be left off the list? Maybe they've got a yacht site or something like that.
It's not a first come, first serve booking. It is the registry, once the registry is in it, and then it's up to the wardens to use seichel in deciding who's coming. So that's really important, that you will not lose out because you've only booked over a Shabbat or versus what's a Shabbat. Richard, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. The primary reason for the booking is to get you on the list and to know how many services we need to plan for. Just so that people are clear, we can get a maximum of 53 people into the shul and the ladies gallery. That's the total number we can get inside the shul space. In the BYS, we can get another 24 people in. So over a course of a morning, we could accommodate up to 130 people. Now that's not going to be as many people as we usually have in shul on a Shabbat morning, but it's the maximum we can do given the size of our building and keeping everybody as safe as possible. And obviously within that, we will try and prioritize, as we said in the FAQs, those people that have a need to say Kaddish for whatever reason, and just use our common sense as we try to do every week in ordinary times, in the good old days. So, yeah.
You have an impossible job, and I think you're all doing incredibly well. I have to say, I'm still not confident in coming back to shul. So that's my perspective on it.
I think most of us have concerns. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't have any concerns. But we've been given the green light to run services, and David and I and Leslie want to make sure that, and Amanda want to make sure that they happen. But we want to make sure they happen safely and for the benefits of the people that are attending. There's no point having them and they're a negative experience. So we want everybody to get something out of coming. It's going to be very, very different to what we've ever had before. So people might come a couple of times and decide it's just not for them. Other people might love it. They might think it's the way forward.
Richard, at the same time, we're not pressurising anyone to come, and no one should ever believe that we are pressurising them, because A, we're not allowed to pressurise, and B, we do not want to pressurise anyone to come. You all have a personal choice on this, and it's your decision.
Thank you, David.
I was going to ask, is it your intention to test temperatures before people go into the shul?
At the moment, the guidance from the United Synagogue is that that's not particularly indicative of whether someone is appropriate to come or not. If the guidance of the government changes, we will do it. At the moment, we're not being informed that that's particularly useful as a way of gauging appropriateness. We will therefore be sticking with making sure that everyone, when they come in, will sanitize, will be wearing a mask, and will socially distance, assuming anyone could, God forbid, be potentially a carrier rather than if the same thing is true if anyone has had an antibody test or has just come back with a negative, whatever, good for you. You still need to follow the rules just like everyone else. You just need to be cautious and careful. It's very, very important. David Hosky, did you have a question?
Thank you.
No? David? Right. You can unmute yourself, please. What we can do for you? Yeah, you're free. You're in.
Yeah, it was actually my question, but it's just been answered. It was to do with the temperature taking.
Okay. Okay. Yes. At the moment, that's what we're choosing to do. We had the Vogels had a comment about bar mitzvahs. I think it's very important to state that we will be working with bar mitzvah families with a variety of options, including the possibility of having separate services just for the Simcha family if that's necessary in their particular circumstance. We don't like the idea of having to limit, we realize we have to limit, but having to reduce the numbers to only a handful. If we could avoid it, we will. We'll just work together on doing so if possible. Sorry, and Danielle and David, did you still have a question or should I take your hand down?
No, take the hand.
Take the hand down.
Okay, fine.
Defer to my wife.
Yes, yes.
As
Ben,
always.
I've been waiting all night to hear from you. Please speak up.
Sorry, me.
No, Dennis Davis.
Hi. As one of the older members of the community, perhaps I can put in my point of view. I can paraphrase, first of all, being a little light-hearted, I can paraphrase Frank Sinatra's song, "This Is My Kind of Town." A 1.5 hour service, great. In and out quickly, great. You know me, I'm a small medium man, this fit me down to the ground. I intend to come on Monday because I have the art site for my father on Wednesday. So I'll have 4 occasions at least, to see what the shul is like with the new setup. I'm all in favour of the services starting and all in favour of the services continuing. We just have to live with what the arrangements have to be to conform to the government regulations. The only thing that worries me a little is what's going to happen after the service in the dispersing of the 50 or 60 or 70 people that are there. Not everybody will leave on time, and the stewards have to do a very good job in making sure that people do disperse. Otherwise, you'll have a number of people reminiscing, because as we all know, a significant number of the community come to shul for the social event, and they come to see their friends, and they haven't seen them for a long time. That's it.
Yes, Dennis, thank you very much. We want people to be able to leave orderly. Remember, they will be outside, which is better, but we don't want them to rush all out together on the other token, because otherwise there'll be a queue. So we're just asking people. Richard and I were in shul today, putting up more signage, creating more social distancing setups. And we looked at each other after a point in time. We said, people are eventually going to have to use common sense to be responsible, and we'll do everything we can. And the ushers and honorary officers will have the authority, worst case scenario, to ask people to have to leave the service if they feel that they're not able to abide for whatever reason by what we have in place. But at the end of the day, people will need to take some responsibility for themselves and for others. We're all partners in this, and that's really important. And we trust you, and hopefully you trust us, and all of us trust God. So that's probably the best we could do. Sas, do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm not sure why nobody's brought it up. Maybe they're too embarrassed. But have the Dayanim talked about a Zoom service, not to be interactive, just to be able to look in? If we're looking at a time that is unprecedented, it is about connecting with people. The fact that there are 73 people on tonight, the fact that there were 50 or 60 on the other night, means that people do want to connect. The fact that we have time clocks on Shabbat, the fact that we have Shabbat lifts on Shabbat, the fact that we have urns on Shabbat means we are using modern technology for the benefit of keeping Shabbat. And if it helps people to connect with the service, they can have it on 24 hours. They don't have to turn it off. The same way that people come to shul, we don't ask them how they get to shul, if they drive, if they walk. If we're talking about unprecedented times, then we have to look outside the box. And if we talked about yesterday about people burning the books and the teachings of the Rambam, and then years later realized how wrong they were, then this is the time to be brave and think outside the box, because we don't want to lose one single member of our community, and we want to keep people that could never even get to shul to be able to be part of what we're doing. So I think it is something that has to be discussed and be brave and strong enough, and not for anyone to say, well, if we have a Zoom service, people will never come back again. That isn't the case. People will be climbing up the walls to come back to the shul when it's safe for them to do so.
Okay, Sas, thank you very much. Strong words and very appropriate words. We have been very, very fortunate that the Dayanim and the Chief Rabbi have given us really amazing access to them, and some of the guidance that you'll see from the United Synagogue, which is available to all the members, has the Dayanim's rulings, which have really been extremely helpful. The position that the Dayanim have taken, along with the Chief Rabbi, is that a Zoom, like when it came to Pesach, a Zoom setup breaches Shabbat. And because we as Jewish people know we can and have, when necessary, davened on our own, we will find the other times when it's halachically permissible to come together, which is why we're doing the streaming under their encouragement on Friday night, which is why we're going to have Kol Nidre on Zoom before Yom Kippur starts. That's why we're going to have Yizkor for Yom Kippur before Yom Kippur starts. Everything we can, we'll have the shofar out in the field. We will be beyond, well, with it, we'll be as creative as you encourage us to be, to find the ways of where it's halachically permissible of connecting, and where it's not, we'll have to become the lonely man of faith, which is not a nice thing to be, but it's sometimes the balance which we need to somehow to use. But you're absolutely right. I'll tell you something which is interesting though. Your rabbi is a man of with many friendships, and I got a phone call just yesterday from a very senior rabbi in a very progressive movement. And he called me up and he said, we're on a first name basis. So he said, Rabbi, and I'm just joking, that's not my first. Anyway, he said, Elchonon, word on the street, what you guys are doing in Bushy are amazing in reopening. Would you please share your material and how you do it with us? So I said, my dear friend, or I call him by his name, what are you talking about? You guys are progressive. You don't need to reopen. You're go for you continue doing your virtual stuff. What's the problem? And he said, no, people want to come back. Virtual is something, but it's not the Beit HaKnesset that you referred to. it's not just the Orthodox that realize that we need to come back together as a community. Everyone realizes it, and please God, with baby steps, we're going to.
But again, going back to the point that even those who can't come back to shul and can't come back to minyan, that's not the only thing that makes community, and that's not the only thing that is Judaism. We all know that, right? We know that even if you come once a year, or if you don't come, there's so much more that makes you part of the Bushy community. And we've really seen that in the last few months, how people have really extended themselves and reached out to each other. And that is really what makes it so special to be part of this amazing community. And, you know, some of the people on tonight will be desperate to come as soon as the doors open, and some people aren't ready to. But that's not our Judaism. The Judaism isn't just if you show up in shul for a minyan. That's important too when you're ready to, but it's about connecting in the way that you can, and we will connect with you in the way that we can as well.
Thank you, Sas. I think we're rounding off the evening now. We're past 9:30. Is there anyone who has anything burning to add before we close?
Yes, can I say something, Rabbi?
Yeah, Howard, please.
Rabbi, I know I haven't seen the registration form, but you're talking about a registration for Rosh Hashanah, which will also have to include a venue, as you presumably will be having different venues for the High Holy Days. Is that going to be a different form, or is it going to be the same form?
Okay, Harrod, that's a very good point. It will be a very different form, and that will be a team effort to manage that process. At the moment, we're relying on our wardens and administrators to manage a Shabbat where we could have potentially 120 people. You could just start thinking about what that would mean to try to register an entire community for places and beyond, because people come with their families and etc. That will be coming out, and it will be part of the package that we will be delivering for Yom Tov.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that will come. I just want to take this opportunity to close now, unless anyone has something else. There's been one couple that have not spoken up on the chat this evening, and that is Rabbi Nick and Shira, and they haven't spoken up simply because of their natural humility, but they have been leaders in the virtual platform, which has been so critical to this period. And just because they're quiet doesn't mean that their impact is quiet. And I just wanted to really, in this time of reopening, to stress how grateful Jacqueline and I are, along with our executive, for how they've risen to the occasion in these circumstances. So a big yashikayach to the cats, and to our amazing executive that support everything and help us in everything that we do, and to all of you. We are going into the final Shabbat of lockdown. First of all, I'm looking forward to having my last lion. But beyond that, I'm looking forward to having an appetite to go modestly and slowly upward, mechayil el chayil, from strength to strength. And please God, let's all keep in touch. Thank you everyone for your contributions and for being part of this conversation. And please share this information with others. Help us field their questions. Have them get in touch with us. Be our ambassadors. And those who are able to help with the ushering, such a critical function, and it guarantees you a ticket into shul as well. Look at that, it's a bonus. So let's all go forward with this, and wishing everyone in advance a Shabbat Shalom and a good evening.
Shabbat Shalom. Hope to see you on Zoom tomorrow.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
Shalom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody, and shkoyach, Rabbi Robertson, and everyone else involved. That's why I didn't have to say anything.
Shabbat shalom from
Thank
us.
you, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. See you soon.
Thanks very much.
Bye,
Looking
guys.
forward to seeing